Hi everyone, this is Daniel Reger with HybridTrainingLLC.com. We are going to go over some warm-up techniques. Now, one thing that we have to understand is that warming up is trying to basically get the heart rate elevated and also to promote blood flow to the muscles so that their elasticity increases. Okay, because when we start working out and we're not warmed up, that can actually restrict the muscle movement and lead to injuries. So we want to make sure that we're doing a proper warm-up, and I don't think that some people are doing long enough warm-ups or more intense warm-ups to make sure that they're actually getting the blood flow that they need to exercise in a proper way. So we're going to go over a couple of techniques that I like to use. One of them being the foam roller, okay? So the foam roller is a great tool to make sure that we can get some of the muscle tension out of our body, okay? So sometimes when we're trying to work out, our muscles actually just feel tight. So when we go through certain movements, we might actually not feel like the range of motion is at max capacity because our muscles are too tense. So the foam roller is going to be a great way for us to actually target these areas and loosen up some of these myofascial tissues, okay? And that's just a fancy way of saying muscle, so stay with me here. All right, now we're going to basically use this way. So we're going to start, whenever you're doing a warm-up, you don't have to do the entire body, okay? You can, it's okay. But if you're short on time for working out, it's okay to go ahead and try to just get the parts that you're going to be targeting for that day. And that's sort of what I do for my warm-ups, okay? So I try to target the muscles and the groups of muscle tissues that I'm actually going to be targeting that day. And I might target a couple of little things here and there, but the bulk of my warm-up revolves around trying to make sure that the tension and that the muscle elasticity is good in those areas that I'm going to be focusing on today, okay? So one thing that we can do with the foam roller is we're going to simply sit on the ground, and we are going to make sure that the roller is actually on the muscle tissue, okay? So you want it on the bulk of the calf, okay? You don't really want to target areas that are going to feel like they're kind of sending nerve signals. If you feel sharp nerve signals going throughout the body, that might be something you might want to move away from, okay? So sometimes the muscle tension can actually lead to nerve pinching, and that can happen a lot around shoulders. So when we get to that area, I'm going to kind of talk about that a little bit more, all right? But what we want to do is just simply lay back, make sure that the other leg is on top of the other one, okay? And as you're here, just gently try to rock back and forth through the body, making sure that we're trying to target the areas that feel a little tight in that muscle group, okay? So as we're going through this, we just want to kind of spend a couple of seconds on here. Generally about 30 seconds is good. And when you find that area that's a little bit more tight than the rest, stay on it for a little bit, kind of hold it out, because what's going to happen is we're going to put pressure on that area. The blood flow is going to start to accumulate more there, and it's going to help release the tension a lot faster. So we want to make sure we target that area better. All right, and then we can basically go ahead and switch sides, do the same thing on the other side. All right, very easy, very quick switch on this. All right, and then what we can do is we can even go ahead and target the front of the leg. All right, so we just get up, we can just get right on top of it, and then what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna get both legs on here. Okay, we're not gonna be switching sides or anything like that. We just wanna basically get on our hands a little bit. We wanna put the pressure forward, okay, and we wanna almost be up on our toes, because then we can actually work back and forth through our toes and our hands. We're pushing back and forth to make sure we go down the entire length of the shin. All right? So now, as you're going through this, you might feel like there's a pretty good amount of tightness, especially if you just started working out and maybe you started jogging a little bit, or if you've been jogging for a while and you haven't even done this, you might feel a lot of tension in this area, all right? Because that tends to build up as you run or as you're moving a lot through those legs, okay? So then we're gonna go ahead and switch it up again, all right? This time we're gonna go to the upper part of the back leg, all right? So now we're gonna go to the hamstrings. What I like to do with the hamstrings is I like to make sure that I cross the legs because I wanna make sure that I get enough tension back here because the hamstrings are really a tough muscle group to actually get. When you look at it, the muscle structure is very dense. So it actually helps if the point that you're doing is actually a little bit more narrow. So that's why I like to make sure I get one leg at a time, and I like to work it a little bit slower to make sure that I'm actually getting rid of the tension. All right, and sometimes it helps to be on a ball, a little bit less of a surface area. So if you really want to get deeper into that hamstring, helps to have a lower surface area to work with, okay? So the foam roller has a very high surface area and your muscle displacement is a lot higher, okay? So when we're talking about trying to get through that muscle, we want to make sure that we're just trying to work it a little bit slow, okay? We want to make sure we actually get into it and feel it. We're going to switch sides again, 30 seconds, all right? 30 seconds on each side. And then if you need a little bit more time, you take a little bit more time. But you want to make sure you do this right. Just get through this. Don't skip the steps, okay? Make sure that if you're working the legs, you're going to target the legs, okay? So if we're working out the legs, we want to make sure that this is being done, okay? Now we're going to actually go and flip over onto almost a plank position, okay? So we're going to be right here into a plank position and just try to roll back. Now this, you don't need to really go and actually make sure you're on one leg or the other. You can be on both legs with this. It's not a big deal. They're a little bit easier to target. You might feel it right away. If you do feel like you want some more pressure on it, you can go ahead and put that leg over top of each other so you can get a little bit more tension out of that muscle. If you've been doing the foam rolling for a while, this is a good way to do a little bit more intense with this, all right? And then you can just go ahead and slide that right onto your side. You can actually go right to your side now, and we can work out the IT band. So now again, you're not actually hitting the IT band directly because that is not going to loosen up. That is a tendon that basically runs all the way from the top of the hip all the way down to the bottom of the knee. You want to target the muscles that are around it, okay? So we can't actually get rid of any of the tension in the IT band directly, but we can get some of the tension out of the muscles that are around the IT band, okay? Now this tends to be very tight in people that are sitting a lot because it's really attached to the hip flexor too. So if you're sitting a lot, make sure you kind of stay on this for a little bit. Take your time with it. Don't rush it. Feel good after you're done. All right. Now we're gonna go right to the seated position, okay? So now we're targeting the glutes, all right? We can basically, you can go back and forth just like this. You can just kind of roll out on the glute, or if you feel like that's not targeting enough, you can cross the leg up and get a little bit deeper into there too. Okay, if you push yourself onto one side, you kind of lean into it, then you're actually gonna get deeper into there, and you might actually start to feel like you're separating the muscle tissue in the glutes, and then you're gonna get into what's known as the piriformis, which is if you have sciatic nerve pain or anything like that, this muscle is actually directly correlated to that sciatic nerve. So this exercise in particular might actually help you with some of that back pain if you might start to feel that a little bit later as you're working out heavy. Okay, so especially if you've lifted something up, you don't really feel good in the back, maybe try doing this a little bit, and that might actually get rid of the tension. Okay? Now we're gonna basically lay on the back. Now, we don't want to really try to lay directly flat on the back. We want to almost turn to one side a little bit. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's not going to let you be on the spine, because you don't want to foam roll the spine, because the spine is not going to do anything with the foam rolling. This only targets soft tissue, so muscle. The spine is going to be nerves that we do not want to touch. We want to get to the side of that where you have something like the erector spinae, you have the quadratus lumborum. Now again, when you're doing this, make sure to also be gentle with yourself, because these are very closely linked to the nerves in the back. So you want to make sure that you're starting off very slow with this, okay? Now you can go ahead and move yourself down a little bit further, working into the mid part of the back. All right, just gently going back and forth. Now, once you've gotten all the way down here, we can go ahead and now start to get into the shoulders too. So this is really good. Now, with the shoulders, you can lay flat onto it. That's not a big deal, because the shoulders are kind of this is a broader area. So you're not really gonna feel like you're targeting the spine directly. So you could lay flat on this. But it's also helpful to roll to one side if you can, because that's going to get into the shoulder blade itself. So then we're going to start to get rid of all that tension that's down there, okay? Now, really important is when you start to get into the neck, so you start to get up in the hips, still stay to that one side, because you don't want to be on the neck, you want to be actually on the side of the shoulders. Same thing, we're going to roll to the other side and make sure that we are identifying the tension in and around the shoulder blade area. Usually there's a lot of it, because as we tend to get stressed, we tend to lift the shoulders up, we tend to, whatever it might be that's going on with the day, all the stress tends to accumulate into the shoulder area. So we want to make sure that we're gentle with ourselves when it comes to this. Now, when you're trying to work the front of the body, I mean, the foam rolling really isn't that good for the front of the body. What I would actually do is you could switch techniques, and there are other tools for that. I'll show them in other videos, but for now, your best bet is to kind of stay into the leg area and also try to work some of the tension out of the back. And we'll highlight other techniques that you can use for the arms. You can use it for the chest, you could use it for around the arms too. So don't worry about anything else. Let's just try to focus on getting the foam roller correct, and we're gonna master that, all right? And let me know basically how you feel with that. Let me know in your comments how how the techniques helped you. Let me know if they were wonderful, if you need any kind of help with the techniques that I was showcasing, if you wanted some more explanation on something. Anything you want to identify, just let me know, and I'll make sure to make a follow-up video to correct any of those things that made them a little bit obscure, okay? Thank you for watching. Have a great day.